Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Walker, and today my co-host is Hallie Wasinger.
Yep.
I almost said Hallie. I almost always do it.
Always.
It's because when I voice message you something, I have to say
You have
Hallie
to
for
say
my
Hallie to
phone
Siri.
to get
Yeah.
it right.
Siri gets it right. My parents got it wrong.
So anyway, we are going to be talking about uh, what do we call it? The great, not so great, but the great Google Ads hack of 2025. Anyone who follows us or is a client of us or is a friend of mine on Facebook, you know about this Google hack. And we want to just lay it all out there today. So today, this is not going to be a short episode. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to be 100% transparent about everything and let you know where we were, where we are, and how we got there and to here and all of
And
that stuff.
hopefully how we keep digging ourselves out of it.
Yeah. So we'll take a minute to thank our sponsors and we will be right back to get into it. ShopBoss is software built by shop owners for shop owners. ShopBoss offers real solutions backed by real experience. Simply put, it's shop management software that works your way. When customers are in the lobby and cars are on the lift, you don't have time for a learning curve. That's where ShopBoss comes in, with profit boosting features that work the way you need them to right out of the box. From built-in DVI to robust customizable reporting, ShopBoss makes everything about running a shop work more smoothly. Plus, with their Boss Pay Payments feature powered by 360 Payments, you can enter the era of totally paperless payments. From text to pay, remote payments, and consumer financing options, to compliance, surcharging, and now even offering PayPal and Venmo options. Everything is built right into ShopBoss. Plus, everything is backed by a fantastic support team with one goal in mind: your success. Be the boss with ShopBoss. Independent auto repair shops, get ready to transform your business with AppFueled. It's time for your professional auto service shop to have its own customer loyalty app. AppFueled will build an app that launches a custom loyalty program for your shop in 30 days or less, fully integrated with your point of sale system. Bring Fortune 500 level customer retention strategies to your business without the Fortune 500 budget. Many shops are enjoying the benefits. Our app engages your customers with a loyalty ladder, enticing them to climb the next rung, coming back more often and spending more each visit, all with your own app. Build loyalty with your customers to your brand and boost your shop's growth. Get your first app in 30 days or less, all without breaking the bank. Ready to start? Let AppFueled take your business to the next level. Go to appfueled.com or meet founder Jeremy Glasgow and book your complimentary app vision session at appfueled.com/Jeremy. That's appfueled.com/Jeremy. All right. Well, hey, Haley.
Hey,
This is one of those episodes that I really wish there was not even the opportunity to do, but we've learned a lot.
we have.
So I guess we'll just kind of start at the beginning.
Start at the
Yeah, I
beginning.
guess, why we're recording this. Well, one of the things is I wanted us to be completely transparent about everything. And this has been from the very beginning to just lay it all out there. We have clients that are going to be listening to this. We have people that are not clients. We have other agencies that are going to be listening to this because they were all reaching out to us throughout the process to find out how do we keep this from happening.
Yep.
Um, so December 16th,
That's how I feel about that date now.
yeah, Kim comes frantically into our bedroom to wake me up at about 4:30
Mhm.
a.m. because she's one of those early risers that gets up between 4 and 4:30 every day.
Thank goodness in this case.
Yep. And she proceeds to tell me that we have lost access to our Google Ads account. Our Google Ads team leader, she knew about this. She's in a different time zone. So she knew about this from around 2:30.
2:38.
2:30 is around when it happened. So shortly after that, she was, of course, getting emails telling her that she had been removed from the account and we were
And
removed from the account.
we were all getting the emails, but we were asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was around 2:30 in the morning. We got hacked. And by 4:50 a.m. I was on the phone with Google. Now, when I say that we got hacked, what got hacked was our Google MCC account. And I'll let you explain what MCC is.
Yeah, so our Google Ads MCC is essentially what it's called. What it is a manager center where we as an agency house, store, and manage all of our clients' Google Ads accounts. This includes Google search ads and our clients' LSA ad accounts. So if you access our Google MCC, you have access to every single account that lives in that MCC. And that's why it was as bad as it was.
Yeah, and MCC stands for My Client Center. Every agency that does Google
Mhm.
Ads uses an MCC. Otherwise, you would have to log into and out of each ad account individually, which would be more insecure. And you would have no way to see at a glance how, like, cumulatively your campaigns are doing. So it's the standard to use an MCC. And the thing about the MCC is you have certain users who have permissions where they can add and remove users
Right.
from the MCC. Now, Google, in their infinite wisdom, and I'm sorry, but you're going to hear some little saltiness from me throughout this episode
From Google hate
because
for sure.
I am not a fan of Google right now. If I could restructure my business to where we never gave Google another penny, I would do it. But that's just not a fact of life, because a true fact of life is that Google is one of, if not the best ways to get new business into,
Yeah.
I'm going to say auto repair shop, but really any kind of small
Yeah.
business.
It's a necessary evil.
Like Google Ads, it works.
The
Of
access
Google, yeah,
levels
the
and
access
different
levels.
access levels you can have to the MCC.
So Google, in their infinite wisdom, they have it set up so that the same level that you need just to be able to do some day-to-day administrative type work
Yep.
in a Google account also gives you the ability to add and remove users.
Yeah.
And we had an email address with that level of access that is what got hacked.
Mm.
Now, how that happened, we don't know. That it probably phishing.
We believe from what we can tell and we were able to dig into on our end that it was through some kind of phishing scheme or email or some kind of third party connection that they used to hack and enter that email and then from there into our MCC.
Yeah, we really have no idea. But the real issue there, it's not just that the email was somehow hacked. It was that Google's two-factor authentication is very, very weak. You know, that's going to be one of the first lessons for someone who wants to make sure that this never happens to them is do not use Google's two-factor authentication methods
Yeah.
that they have in place, because there is a weakness there.
Mhm.
And we are not the only agency that this happens to. It is constant that
Yeah.
this is happening. But anyway, they got into the MCC. In our case, we had about 230 accounts
Yeah.
that were connected.
And like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't just our Google search ads accounts that were connected, it was also our LSA accounts. And the difference between those accounts are our Google search ad accounts were created and owned by us as an agency, Shop Marketing Pros. LSA accounts are owned by the clients. We also had some previous client ad accounts in there.
Mhm.
So we're talking about not just current clients, Google Ads or LSA, but we're talking about some previous clients too
Yeah.
that were affected by this. So it was pretty widespread and pretty shocking news to receive at 4:30 in the morning for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Now, that like I say, I found out about 4:30 in the morning. By 4:50 in the morning, I was on the phone with Google. All that Google needed to do was to simply remove the hacker from the account. It is a Gmail address that has
Mhm.
access. All that they have to do is remove that person's access
Right.
and restore our access. And at this point, at 4:50 a.m., there was virtually zero damage done.
Right.
We may have been talking pennies
Right.
by that time of ad spend.
Yep.
Certainly less than $10
Yeah.
in ad spend.
100%.
There would have been nothing that we needed to do except for, if there was $10 of ad spend, we would have given that to whatever client was impacted, and we would have went about our day and had a completely normal day. And that is literally all that needed to happen at
Right.
that point. Now, this again was December 16th at 4:50 a.m.
You were actually on the phone with a Google representative, which is
Yes.
amazing in itself
Mhm.
that you were even able to get someone on the phone.
Yeah, and I think it was just because it was so early in the morning.
Yeah.
So I had someone on the phone, and to Google's defense, they can't just go booting admins. But when you can look at admins who have been an admin on the page for years and years and years,
Mhm.
and then you have a new one that happened at 2:30 in the morning, and they're located in another country.
Yep.
Like one of these things,
Does not match. Well,
yeah,
and the interesting thing about MCCs too is they have, and all Google accounts has what's called an allowed domains list. So we have our allowed domains set to only people with Shop Marketing Pros email addresses are allowed to be users in our MCC. But when they hacked that Shop Marketing Pros email and used that email to get into our MCC, they changed the allowed domains list to add Gmail as an allowed domain, which is how they then began adding the Gmail fraudulent emails.
yeah, yeah.
It's deep.
If it was set so that there was a different user access level
Hmm.
for doing administrative work, then, this would have never even happened.
Well, and you should never be allowed to remove the owner of an MCC, which in this case is you. And you rarely at this point even log into our MCC, but
No, I
you,
can't remember the last time I had logged into it.
right, but you are the owner of the MCC. So essentially, you should never be able to be removed from
Yeah.
the MCC.
When the hackers got into the account, when I say they removed us, they only removed our administrative access. We
Mhm.
came to find out later there was a reason that they did
Mhm.
this. We wondered why they didn't just boot us out altogether, but they left us in, and I'm grateful that they did, because what they did was they put us all the way down to view only access. Now, that was great because we were able to see everything
Everything.
still,
Hmm.
and we were immediately on the phone with clients. We were able to tell them like what credit card or what bank account was connected to their account. And we told them, call your credit card company or call your bank and tell them to put a merchant block or just cancel the card. And I believe we got in touch with every single client
Yeah,
that day.
we did.
So we notified them, and still something which we'll get into to that. But again, at that point, really not much damage had been done to the account. Now I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out there while we're talking about that. So that was December 16th. Hack happened at 2:30 in the morning. I was on the phone with a Google representative by 4:50 in the morning who could have just removed someone, and we would have been on our day, on about our day. It was December 23rd around 2:30 in the PM at this point when we regained access.
I would say later than that. They told us around 2:30 p.m.
Mhm.
Central Time
Yeah,
that we were going to regain access, but if you remember, they didn't actually give us access back and revert everything until right at the end of the day because you
yeah,
and I stayed up.
that's right. So it was 2:30 PM when I got the email saying
Mhm.
this is
This is
about
going
to
to happen.
happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, so 8 days.
Yeah.
8 days they allowed the hackers to stay in that account, and the damage that they did, uh, honestly, I'm gonna call it irreparable, because in some cases, there were 5 years of optimizations that had been done,
Yeah.
that,
Had
that there was damage that happened there.
Yeah, 100%. That either had to be reverted, some campaigns completely started over, and, even accounts that have been running for 5 years with great performance are now affected. And something about the read-only access that you were talking about is, which we'll get into why they left us in read access only, but it was lucky, quote unquote lucky, that they did, because at that point in those 8 days, we meticulously tracked every single change that was happening on every single account. New users added, budget changes, campaign changes.
Negative keywords.
It was, and the amount they were doing it in and the time in which they were doing it, how quickly they were moving was insane. We would
Well,
go
they
to
had
sleep.
added like 13 users.
Yes. The hackers just kept duplicating.
Yeah.
We would go to sleep and have everything documented for the day, and we would wake up and have to backtrack I don't even want to say 8 hours that we slept because we were not sleeping 8 hours. But, and our ads team was incredible at doing all of that.
They were fantastic.
But the spreadsheet that we're still even working off of is insane, and to the normal person, they would not be able to read it, but it
Yeah.
tracked every single edit that was made on every single account.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that we can say without a doubt is that our team, they were, I hate to overuse the term, but they were rock stars during that time. They really were. So, all right, the hackers kept adding people to the account, but then they started adding other people with view only access, and it was like, okay,
Mhm.
what is going on here? And that's around the time that we learned. And by the way, we had two new hires at this point. They were pretty much brand new, and both of them came from like they worked at Google at one point. So
Yeah.
they knew a lot of stuff that was going on there. And we were able to learn from them that the reason that we were left in their view only access is that by not just removing us, it didn't throw a flag to Google's system. If they had gone in and just completely removed us altogether, then it would have thrown a flag and it would have made it a higher priority
Yeah.
ticket
It would have been
with
called
Google.
at that point a complete takeover.
Yes. So we had no access, but we were still there, and this bought the hackers more time.
Yeah.
Now, in the scheme of things, and we'll talk about some numbers later, but uh, I don't even see why it was worth it to the hackers because they weren't able to spend a lot of money.
Oh,
There was a lot of money they got moved around, and
yes.
we will talk about that. But the reason that the hackers were doing this was to drive traffic to some probably completely fake e-commerce websites
Mhm.
that were selling medical devices, and
Yep.
I'm certain if you bought something from there, you never saw it, but they were driving tons and tons of traffic to these websites, and they were using our clients' ad budgets
Yep.
to be able to do that. They never had access to our clients' payment information or anything like that.
No.
So,
And that's the thing I think everybody wonders and asks too. The money that they're spending, it's not going to them. It's going to Google, which why would Google stop it? You
yeah,
know? But and it's all about the traffic and running their own ads on somebody else's dime,
yeah,
essentially. Luckily, the fraudulent campaigns that they were creating for these medical device ads, I guess if you're gonna be a hacker, you're a hacker. You're not really Google ad specialist, but most of the campaigns were running either in a disapproved or a limited status. So luckily, they were spending very little money.
yeah. During these 8 days, they managed to spend about $15,000,
Yes.
which in the scheme of things, that is a tiny amount.
They were set to spend much, 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 much more,
Yes.
like a number that I can't even come up with in my brain right now.
Yeah.
But luckily, they did not
Now, again, there was still a lot of money that got moved around
move.
because what they were able to do is they were able to preload the ad accounts with funds using the client's payment method. Again, they had no access to like they couldn't see the credit card numbers or anything, but they could, because the payment methods were already attached, they could say, let's go ahead and load this account with a bunch of,
A credit.
yeah, a credit. They did multiple, and you might know how many it was. I don't even, I, they did multiple charges for $500,000
Yeah.
that actually went through.
And when the first one went, I will never forget our conversation when the first one went through, and I got the receipt for the first $500,000 charge that
Yeah.
went through. And I messaged you and I said, we need to meet now.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm staring at a receipt for $500,000. And you immediately called me and said, did you just say $500,000?
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely think you thought I misspoke, and I wish I had.
Yeah. Well, and to keep in mind, Haley and I were probably meeting 10 or more times per day already
Yeah.
at uh at that point. But we had multiple $500,000, we had multiple $50,000, and then we had a bunch of them three, four, or five,
Five. Yeah.
$1,000. And the thing about it is, so we had spoken to every client that first day. They had reached out to their banks. Most of them did. There were a handful of people that just didn't bother.
Didn't. Yeah.
They're it'll be okay, so they didn't bother. But for the most part, our clients had spoken. All of those charges were reversed, like, the next day.
Mhm.
I think one person went over a weekend,
Yes,
with
because it
one,
happened.
like
Mm.
Friday evening. But that is probably the most stressful thing I've ever experienced in my life because we had clients who were going to bed with overdrawn bank accounts and thinking, yeah, $500,000 is gone. Now, one of them that I actually spoke to, he was laughing when I talked to him, and I couldn't believe that he was laughing. And I was grateful that he was,
Yeah.
honestly. I really was. But he personally knew his banker, and his banker had told him, "Yeah, don't worry about it. We're gonna reverse that in the morning." So he was laughing about it, but I was not laughing about it.
And our CSMs who are having to receive these emails about the $500,000 charges and the phone calls and communicate back to them. I remember talking to Kendra, one of our CSMs, at one point, and her just saying, "What do I tell them?"
Yeah,
Us having to tell her, "We can't do anything about it."
yeah,
Like, it's on the bank. All they can do is contact their bank. And that's not a good feeling
no,
at all. And it's not something that you want to send a CSM into a phone call like that saying, but that was the truth of the matter at that time. And like that part was also hard, just having to say, we can't do anything about this on our end. All you can do is call your bank.
yeah, yeah. And I'm a big believer in extreme ownership,
Mhm.
and to tell somebody there's nothing that I can do about it, like those words, they don't live in me because
Yeah.
there's nearly always something that we can do about something, and in this case, there was nothing that we could do about it. It was horrible.
It was about at that point during those 8 days, now looking back at it, because it certainly did not feel like this at the time, but now looking back at it, I'm thinking, like, during those 8 days, it got to the point of just controlling what we can control. At some point, we accepted that we're waiting on Google
Yeah,
now, and all we can control is being communicative and transparent and meticulously tracking the changes that were being made.
yeah,
And I remember when I, again, thinking back at it about it, because I certainly did not feel this way in the moment. But I remember when I hit that point of just telling the CSMs and the ads team, you're going to wake up tomorrow and we're just going to track changes again. And we're just going to send emails and do phone calls again because that's all we can do right now.
yeah. So now the things that we were doing, I had reached out to the FBI. I had reached out to Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center, and the FBI. Basically, what it did was I filed a complaint. A complaint. I don't think complaint's the right word, but anyway, I went to their IC3 website and reported that this was happening. Same thing with the Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center. We're in Louisiana, so I reached out to Senator Cassidy, Senator Kennedy, and Senator Scalise. Senator Cassidy was the first of the senators to respond. We had a personal connection there that we were able to work, and they now keep in mind this was like at Christmas, so there was not a lot that was happening fast during that time. But Senator Cassidy was the first one to take action on this, and it was huge. And I'll come back to what happened there. But just to let you know that, even when we say there's nothing that we could do, we were still working. Like the number of people that I spoke to trying to get to someone high up at Google,
Mhm.
and there's such a fundamental problem there when you have something like that going on and there's no one that you can talk to with this behemoth of a company.
Yeah.
I've told multiple people since this hack, like, I am a capitalist pig. All right.
Mhm.
I do not like the government getting involved in things that they don't need to get involved with. But this was the first time where I had personal experience to look at what is truly a monopoly and say there's a problem here.
Mm.
So, that's kind of where, I am with that. Now, okay, there were some ripple effects from this. Gratefully, with LSA, we were able to get those clients to disconnect
Disconnect it
quickly.
because they
So,
owned their accounts.
yeah. So we got them disconnected, and that we were able to, like, before the hackers started getting into the sub accounts,
Mhm.
because that hadn't happened,
That
you know.
that first day,
Yeah.
that hadn't happened yet, and that's when I remember when we made the call to realize, like, we're not getting back control of our account today, and this could possibly get out of hand.
Yeah.
You and I got on the phone, and you said, "Have LSA disconnect it, and let's start calling every client to cancel their credit card or suspend it
Yeah.
or whatever they need to do." And that's ultimately when all the phone calls started, and it was 2 options: suspend or cancel your payment method or disconnect your LSA. So
Yeah.
luckily, LSA had that option.
Well, with LSA, yeah, I think that was really the option. We were
Mhm.
like, "Let's get it disconnected," and during that time, we were able to get back into those accounts individually. and still do all of the stuff that we would normally do.
Yeah.
Like those, most of, because there were a few LSA accounts that were impacted, but for the most part, almost none of the LSA accounts were, and we were able to continue doing business as usual and keep those working and keep the leads flowing and
Yeah.
all of that. But we do know like, there was more to it than your ads were off, and there was more to it than being concerned about payment methods and
Mhm.
all of that. Actually, this is one of the things that I have to say that I did. Well, there was nothing about this that I liked. Okay. I don't even know the words to use to say how I felt about this, but it proved just how much what we does works
Yeah.
because we had a lot of people, and this pained me. Like it pained me. They
Mhm.
were like, I need work.
Yeah.
With these ads off, our phone has stopped ringing.
Ringing.
And it shows just how impactful these things are. But that was damaging, like it's damaging an opportunity cost, that was
100%.
missed by the lead flow interruptions. So, there was a lot to that. So now remember I said we were not the only agency that has had this happen. And when I say that, just like many of y'all are in coaching groups like, the Institute or Elite or ShopFix or, whatever coaching group that you're in, where you have a big group of a whole bunch of people. We're in one for agencies. And we have seen this happen countless times. We've seen it with Google being hacked, and we've seen it with Facebook being hacked. We, a few years ago, had a Facebook hack, but it lasted all of a few hours.
Yeah.
Facebook was so much more on top of it than Google was. There
Yeah.
was still a pain in the tail.
Well, the thing that made that so different is we didn't lose access
Yeah.
to our account. We were or lose the ability to act inside of our own account.
Well, and they talked to us also.
Yes, we were able to chat and get somebody on the phone with Facebook, and we still had the ability to remove any fraudulent hackers or ads that were created. And again, like it was within a few hours.
So, well, okay, this was November 16th, December 16th, November 17th. One of the other agencies in our industry, like one of our competitors, had been hacked. And when that happened, we immediately were like, okay, like we already knew that we had multi-factor on and all of that, but we said, okay, let's go set some rules around how often passwords have to be changed. We tightened that up,
Yeah.
made it a shorter amount of time.
I made quite a few changes around specifically our Google Workspace. So, our emails, our MCC, our Google Analytics, anyone who logs into a Google product with a Shop Marketing Pro's email address, we tightened up the password security even more than it already was. We changed some two-factor authentication settings, and I made everyone reset their password. Like I triggered a password reset for everyone in our Google Workspace during that time.
So that was November 17th, a month before this happened. What's very interesting is that we got hacked on December 16th.
Mhm.
I was on the phone with that other agency owner that morning, talking to him about this and finding out, hey, do you have any advice? Because they were, at that time, they were around where we are now in
Coming out of
their
it, yeah.
recovery. And he's kind of telling me what they had done and all of this. 20 minutes later, he reached out to me and said, we just got hacked again.
Bye.
Same thing. Well, we didn't know at that time,
We
at
didn't.
that moment, but it turns out that the primary email address, the first one that got added to our MCC, that email address was one of the hackers in
Mhm.
their account this next time also.
Which is also insane because, again, it is a Gmail email address
Yes.
and how it is still active
It's probably in somebody's account right
right
now
now.
as we speak. And Google just allows this stuff to keep happening. And Google, if you are listening, yes, like you allow this stuff to happen. It is just insane. But the this other agency had been hacked, so we'd gone through all of our security to make sure all of that stuff was up to date. Um, so multi-factor authentication, we use VPNs. We had the administrator access locked down as much as we could, or well, we thought we have locked it down even further
Even
now.
further.
We had done the security audit on it. Like we felt good about where we were.
Yeah.
We did not realize at that point just how weak Google's two-factor authentication was,
Mhm.
and we will go through some of the things that we've done. Um, in a bit. So, all right, we regained access on December 23rd. Uh, Talk to us about what that looked like when we got it back.
Yeah, so it happened at the end of the day, right at the end of the workday,
Mm,
like we mentioned. And essentially, what Google did at that time is said, who do you want to be your admins? Reassign who do you want administrative access reassigned to, and what date do you want your entire MCC reversed back to?
And we're like, this is great. We're not going to
Yeah.
have to. They're like, if we revert a website, for example,
Mhm.
to a certain date, it is exactly 100% the way that it was on that day.
So, you responded, you gave them my email address, your email address, and you told them December 15th, the day before the hack.
Hmm.
If that would have happened, we really would not have lost anything. Like all of our optimizations, everything up to December 15th would have been restored. So they restored our MCC back to December 15th. So we thought. And what actually happened is when they restored our access, they left the hackers in the account, but they downgraded then the hackers' access to read only and reestablished Brian and I as administrators. But the hackers were still in the account.
Hmm.
And they also reconnected all of the LSA accounts that had been disconnected from us. But in the reconnecting of the LSA accounts, they turned all of the LSA ads off and removed the owners of those accounts. Or not removed, they downgraded the owners of those accounts as admins as
Yeah.
well.
So now we got owners calling us up like, what just happened? Why did you remove us? They're like freaking out about this. First of
We
all,
didn't
Google
know it
did
was
not
going to
tell
happen.
us that that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And so then the next thing that happened was all of the fraudulent ads that were created in various client accounts were put in a removed status. And when Google says removed, the status essentially just changes to removed. They are not actually removed from the account completely. You can still see the fraudulent ads. You can just see that the status is removed. And so the first thing you and I tackled, and we did it that night, because like you said, we then had owners of LSA accounts begin calling us saying, I just lost access to my account. What is going on? And again, had no idea what was going to happen. So we couldn't even warn them of this. And this is now 5 p.m. on a
At
Friday, the
least.
day before Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And Brian and I stayed up for hours, and all we did was just one by one, removing all of the hackers from every single LSA account, reestablishing the owner's admin access, and turning the LSA ads back on.
Yeah.
We started with the LSA accounts because owners were removed, and that's scary, especially
Mhm.
with all of that going on.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, that was a, well, I probably took the biggest sigh of relief in my life at the point that we got access back.
Hmm.
And that lasted about 2 minutes before it was like, okay, time to go to work.
Yeah. And again, I was glad to at least get the LSA accounts back on at that point, which that had some ripple effects too that we are now experiencing and we'll talk about. But at that point, it was a sigh of relief of, okay, at least our LSA clients ads are back on. The Google search ads are where the most damage was done, but we also had prepared for when we do regain access back of our account. We had created thorough checklists, audit checklists that our teams were going to follow for each sub account.
Mhm.
And we had prepared our teams to work over the holiday that we're normally off, but they were ready to go to work too. So we were ready and we went to work, but it was not like we thought it would be. It was
No,
not reverted.
not at all. Not even close. We've got all of these accounts that we've regained access to, but can't get them, many of them back online and working. This was about the time that Senator Cassidy's office, they had one of their staffers in DC reach out to Google, and they were able to put me in touch with a guy named Kent Walker with Google, who is their president of global affairs. And he connected me to like a higher level escalations team that
Yes.
you just don't get access to, which, by the way,
It's crazy.
after the first couple of times that we reached out to Google, it kind of put us into this loop where they were like, we will be back in touch with you in 4 days. And then if you tried to get in touch with Google at any point, it would just remind you that you'll hear from us at this certain time.
And it
We
even
could not get in touch with anybody there, no
and
matter what we did. We tried using other CIDs and all of these things, and it was smart enough to know who we were. It would just I forget exactly what the recording would say, but it was something to the effect of your account is already being looked at.
is under review,
Goodbye. Yeah,
and it
your
would
account is under
literally hang
review.
up.
Goodbye, and it would hang up.
As soon as we typed in our CID, I heard that recording so many times,
Yeah.
and there was just no way around it. As soon as we typed in our CID, it would say, "Your account is already under review. Please wait 3 days. Bye." Then you would email, and it would say, "There's already an open ticket about this." And essentially what they would say is, it could cause further delays if you keep trying to reopen tickets. And if you've listened to a Google Ads podcast or a digital ads podcast from us before, you've probably heard us talk about the Google Ads specialists
Mhm.
that will call you to give you optimization
Yeah.
recommendations on your account. And we say all the time, don't talk to them.
Mm.
Their recommendations are not good. Went back through every email I've ever gotten from a Google Ads specialist, and I emailed every single one of them. And one of them called me back, and he was our Google Ads specialist assigned to a few of our accounts 2 years ago.
Mm.
So I hadn't heard from this guy in 2 years. And he even asked me, "How did you get my email?" And I said, "I searched my email history." And luckily, he tried to help what he could, but he was no longer assigned to
Mhm.
any of our accounts. So there was nothing he could see or do on his end. And also, he's not part of that escalation team. But even what he was directing me to talk to support, he was literally telling me this should be working. And it
Yeah,
was not.
and he didn't understand
Why it wasn't.
why. So, to be fair, or not to be fair, J I
Not
guess
being fair.
I guess yes. To be fair, Senator Cassidy's office was incredible. They handled business very quickly. It was about 2 days later, Senator Kennedy's office got in touch with me.
Mhm.
They were great also. They connected me to someone in Google. After the first of the year, Senator Scalise's office got in
Mhm.
touch with me. So 3 out of 3 senators, they took it seriously and did something about it. And there's only so much that they can do because Google it's not a government entity, so they don't have control over it. And they were clear with me that we can't control them, but they can be very persuasive. All right. The things that we feel like Google needs to change. When something like this happens, they need to immediately put a freeze on the account. I think we were 5 days in or so before they finally put a freeze on it. I don't remember how many days exactly.
Well, that was the honestly kind of ridiculous part about it too. If you remember, I think it was our leadership team and our CSMs and our ads team lead, we were on a meeting and we got this notice. And I remember the red bar popped up on our MCC account that our entire MCC has been suspended.
Mhm.
And we cheered. We cheered that our entire MCC was suspended
Mhm.
because we were like, at least this will stop.
But it didn't stop.
It didn't. So at that point, an MCC suspension means nothing. Now, I have fought multiple sub account suspensions,
Mm.
and when your Google Ads sub account is suspended, it is suspended. It is
Yeah.
locked down. Your ads are not running. So the fact that our MCC got suspended, we all cheered because we thought it was this great thing that we thought would stop this. And it did not. So
Yeah.
the hackers continue to run in our quote unquote suspended MCC for days.
So I mean that's kind of well, I guess. All right, we get access back on the 23rd. We get all the LSA is reconnected. We get
Mhm.
most of them working again. We're working on getting the Google Ads accounts working. Some of them worked right away. But
Yeah.
if you remember, and when I say if you remember, I know Haley remembers. And to our listeners, we had asked our clients to suspend their credit cards or their bank accounts, and the accounts were working again until they would hit their threshold.
Right. Because then their payment method couldn't be charged.
So then it was a matter of getting them to get their payment methods, which we'd sent something out earlier once we knew that everything was locked down, telling them they could go ahead and turn their payment methods
Right.
back on. But some of them didn't, and some of them, even though they did, it still just didn't let the payments go through. So we had accounts that started getting not suspended, but
They
th-
just got paused due
yeah,
to declined payments.
so we had to work through that. Then we had accounts that actually started getting suspended or
Probably.
circumventing,
Yep.
which circumventing means that you're trying to like get around Google's rules, their
Mhm,
policies some kind of way, which we were not doing any of that,
mhm.
but because they had left these that was causing the
The
circumventing
circumventing,
issues.
which again was another problem. Like I mentioned earlier, and the reason I stressed is Google put these fraudulent ads in this removed status, but that doesn't actually remove them from our account. So now those fraudulent ads, even though they're quote unquote removed, that's what was causing the circumventing issue. And a circumventing policy violation in Google Ads can get your Google Ads account completely suspended. Like
Yeah.
you will not be able to reinstate it. It's a pretty dangerous policy violation because essentially, like you said, you're telling Google, I'm trying to get around your rules.
And not only can you not reinstate it, but you can't make another one.
Correct, because then that would
That would
actually
be
be
circumventing.
circumventing.
Yeah, and we're dealing with that right now. We have one account left
Mhm,
that they say is circumventing, which is not
mhm,
circumventing. That is the only one
mhm.
of 230 accounts that has not come back online yet. So that's kind of where we're at with it. And we're still working through some things like with the accounts right now. We have some that are saying the destination, it's a non-working destination.
Essentially, the URL isn't working, but we know the URL is working. You're
It is
able to
working.
visit their site.
So we're having to go make new URLs
Mhm.
to send it to.
It's kind of just one thing after another. We had about 12 LSA accounts of all things
Mhm.
that just stopped gaining leads. Their ads on our side, it showed everything should be working. We called LSA support on their side. It showed everything should be working. There's no reason that these ads shouldn't be gaining leads. And it turns out it was on the Google MCC side. Those, again, I think it was approximately 12 LSA accounts got fixed. I remember they got fixed last Monday. Brian and I exchanged a very celebratory text message about it.
Yeah.
And we even said, okay, now we're just down to one account. And then as of this week, now we have this new policy violation or disapproval is what it is, popping up for destination not working. And again, it's wrong. We know the destination is working. Luckily, this one isn't as serious.
Yeah. A little bit easier to fix.
Yes, yes. And so we're working on that getting fixed, but we're in that toxic cycle now, the feeling like we're coming out of it, and then we get pulled back in. Something new pops up to work around.
Yeah. So, that is, I mean, that's basically the summation, if you can call it a summation of everything that happened. And, we've been working with clients because we had clients that were not impacted at all. Literally the only thing that they had to do was disconnect their LSA account. Their ads never went down. We kept doing all of our work during that time.
Mhm,
So they had no impact. We had clients that were impacted. Like their ads were off for a week and it was Christmas week anyway. And then we had clients that have some big impacts,
mhm.
like the one, of course, I mean, we're 6 weeks in right now. And I mean, God bless them. That client is still being, you know, patient and fantastic to work with. Where
Yes.
it's funny, Haley and I we had a client advisory panel earlier today where a client advisory panel meeting where we met with our client advisory panel to get some feedback on a couple of things to make sure that we were doing things the right way, because we don't want to make assumptions on our end that we're doing things the right way. We want to know from actual clients, it's like, this is what we're doing or what we're planning on doing. What do you as a client think about this? And we were getting feedback from them about that. And
Many of those clients were impacted.
yeah,
They are ads clients.
and they've been fantastic. So I mean, really, to our clients, thank you so much for how great y'all have been through this whole thing. But we were laughing because we had one person that they were not impacted at all. That they're like, we want to be reimbursed for services for the month. Your ads never shut off. You had zero
The ads were
impact
never off. We
ever.
were only disconnected from their account for one,
Yeah,
not even 24 hours.
yeah. So it's crazy. But we've been working with the clients, especially the ones who have had the larger impacts, to make sure that we are compensating them for the downtime. The minimally impacted ones we're handling on a case by case basis. So this is something that I don't wish for anyone to
No.
ever have to go through. but I will say, it has absolutely made us stronger. It's made us better. Some of the things that we are doing to strengthen security, we have gone to hardware keys, which nowhere has Google suggested that you go to a hardware key. This is something that we're kind of learning about or have learned about as we've gone but we're using the hardware key for two-factor authentication.
Mhm.
And like that's not Google's two-factor authentication. You would think that Google would have strong, good two-factor authentication. They don't. So we've put third-party hardware keys in place where the hardware key has to be plugged into your computer and you have to touch a sensor on the hardware key for the two-factor authentication to happen. We also got away from using our primary email addresses, and we now
Yeah.
have email addresses in place that you would never guess. And we don't use those email addresses for anything else.
For anything else.
We don't email anyone. No one would be able to know what those email addresses are.
And those
So,
email addresses are assigned to the admins on the account that do have the ability to make the changes
yeah.
that we're talking about. And it is like Fort Knox trying to get in there now every time I need to log in.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pain, but it's a necessary evil.
100%.
But doing it that way, it's almost like it adds another password in
Mhm.
place because you have to know what the email address is.
Right.
And it's not like Brian at
I would never guess it.
shopmarketingpros.com. No one's going to be able to guess this. So, we have those in place and those are the ones that we have the hardware keys on. We've removed anything that is that higher level of access we've removed from our day-to-day email addresses because I mean anybody that knows that the CEO of Shop Marketing Pros is named Brian and that our domain is shopmarketingpros.com and that the CEO and founder of the business probably has the high level of access to everything will be like, oh well, that's a good email address for us to
The
go
hack.
to go hack. So we've taken that out of the equation. They can hack my email address and there's nothing super important
Right.
that they're going to be able to get to except for like my communication with people. So we've done that. We've done the hardware keys. We have tightened up the security measures on other things too, like our Facebook and the password keeper that we use, which I'm not going to say what we use. Um, so those things. What else have we done?
And I mean, we also just tightened up, like, again, even though we had just revisited it in November, I did another deep dive into the security options that Google does have. And I turned off the ability for, again, specific two-factor authentication methods, even for our team
Yeah.
that do not have access to some of the things that we're talking about.
So there is no text message two-factor authentication anymore.
Kim in there just had to change her password to her Google account. And she said, Haley, is this accurate? I said, every 30 days. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and it's a very long password that's
Yes.
required. It is not like it if you can remember your password, it's not working.
Yeah.
You would have to have a crazy memory to be able to remember the passwords that we require. We do not allow those email addresses that we created to be logged into on mobile devices. They can
Right.
only be logged into on your desktop or your laptop. There's a lot that we've done. Oh, and then the other big thing that we've done is we moved our client ad budgets to our own credit card, which that is it's a logistical nightmare. We're about to do our first billing on that, and I'm dreading the process that we have to go through. But, and we're simply doing a pass through. We do not make a penny on the ad budgets. We with the caveat that if somebody chooses, and we're recommending that people not pay by credit card, we're recommending them to do ACH. If they do ACH, there is absolutely no fee on it. We can't the credit card fees on a pass through, which is what
Right.
the ad budget is. That is just choosing to lose money, and
Right.
we can't do that. We do on like the charges for our services. Yeah, we absorb the credit card fee for that. Can't do it on the ad budget, but we're
Well,
running the ad budget on our cards so that if this were to ever happen again, we'd never have a client whose bank account or even their credit card. We had some credit cards with some big old transactions that tried to go through also. That won't happen. And we can immediately log in and
shut that
turn
down.
it off is a click of a button.
And there are only 3 people in this company that even have access to those cards.
Yeah.
And so even that again is super locked down and it's our payment methods,
Right.
you know? And I think that has probably, I mean, aside from our security, been the biggest change that internally for us, huge process changes. We
Yeah.
hired a person just to take care of the accounting
Mm.
that comes along with that. But also that's going to be the biggest change in process in an ad client working with us as well. But in the end, it truly protects them because even clients who didn't have charges go through, they had minimal impacts, they still had to either suspend or shut down their credit cards that were connected to other things in their daily shop operation. So it interrupted more than just their marketing.
That was actually the biggest complaint that we got through
Mhm.
the entire thing. We got more complaints about that than we got from actually no one with the huge transaction, a $500,000 transaction. Nobody made a big deal out of it. You know, yes, it was stressful in the moment, but no one made a big deal out of it. But what people did make a big deal out of is when they have one credit card that they do everything for their business with and they have to cancel that credit card. And I totally get it because I've been
The
there.
pain.
And you have to go update that payment method everywhere that you use that card. We actually had one guy who was like, I'll take the chance. And he didn't do it. And it worked out for him. His account actually never had a penny charged to it. Not
No.
it's like the hackers were oblivious to his account.
But I
But
also,
people
we
were complaining about that.
yeah, and I think that is one of the biggest lessons for, you know, we just talked about this in our client advisory panel too. If you're running ads yourself, that would probably be one of the biggest recommendations that
Yeah.
we make out of this.
Have a card that is dedicated to that. And we had multiple clients who have card services that allow them to create virtual cards. And that was beautiful because they were like, "Oh yeah, no problem."
Let's go shut
They
that
they
down.
logged in, they turned it off, and when it came time, they logged in and turned it back on
Right. Or just
because
create
that
a new.
virtual card was used for nothing but their ads.
Mhm. And I think the other thing I would tell clients if you're running ads yourself, and I saw this, you know, with clients as we were going through removing hackers from the account, reinstating their access, they had some people on their account that had access to their account that probably shouldn't have access anymore. That they would tell us,
Old.
yeah, oh, remove that person. They don't work here anymore.
Mhm.
Or, you know, they had multiple emails and logins. So
Yeah.
truly knowing not only who has access to your account, but how you access your account. We have some clients that didn't even know how to log into their Google Ads account to remove or give us back access.
Now that was something that I saw also is people who do not have two-factor authentication.
Yes.
And the reason that I know that is because when we would get into the sub accounts, it'll tell you if two-factor authentication is turned on. And we got clients that they are connected to their own account. And all right, the MCC can go down to the individual account, but the individual account cannot go up to the MCC.
Correct.
So them not having two-factor on, it doesn't impact us
Yes.
or other clients, but it could impact their specific ad account. They don't have two-factor on at all. And now that being said, the hackers are not really, to my knowledge, they're not going after individual accounts. They want the MCC where they can get the biggest bang for their buck.
And by the way, the hackers are targeting MCCs to go along with that. They have been doing this. It was running rampant in Q3 and Q4 last year. When we started researching just how many people, there were countless reports of MCCs being hacked across all kinds of industries, all kinds of agency sizes. We, like we said, we knew of some just from our coaching group that we're a part of and other agencies in the industry. But I mean, when I started reading report after report after report of the number of MCCs being hacked, and again, it's still happening, and
Yeah.
that blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, and it's such an easy fix. And you can't convince me that Google's AI, like this is going to be loaded up on YouTube.
Mhm,
This podcast will be put on YouTube as a video. And you can't convince me that Google's not monitoring what people are saying about them. So
mhm.
Google, I want you to hear. Like I want you to hear this. It's such a simple fix to just make a different level of user.
Like a super admin.
Yeah, a super user who that is the only level that can add and remove users and keep that person like if that person is the one who has, you know, especially if they're the one who created the account, just like on Facebook, if you ever go try to delete a Facebook profile, it takes 15 days before it'll delete. Should be the same thing with that super user access is if somebody tries to remove them, there's a time limit. I
Right.
don't care if it's 48 hours,
Mm.
but enough time that I can wake up in the morning and see somebody's in there trying to remove me.
'Cause it happened like that.
Yeah.
And then for days, any email we got from Google removing, adding, which we got tons because we were making those reconnections, I would constantly get, "Is this you? Is this you?"
Yeah.
And we were doing it to each other. You, me, Kim, we're all texting each other. It'd be like 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
"Is this you?"
And I mean, Google's got the best developers in the world working for them. You can't convince me that they can't do this in a day.
No, I but
If it's not already a function there that they could be like, "Hey, let's just add
yeah,
this
let's
user."
do it. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where we are.
I feel like we could sit here and just go on and on and on
We
for
could.
days about it, but it felt now we talked about recording this podcast. I'm glad I was in town to record it,
Mhm.
but hopefully, fingers crossed, like getting this out, getting this podcast, we finally make our way out of it and stop
Yeah.
getting pulled back in.
Yeah, we're like 98% out of
Mhm,
it
mhm.
right now. So, it's so close to just being done. We just need it to be done and over with. So, anyway, thank y'all for listening to this very long episode. Other agencies out there, if you got questions about any of this, if you're the victim of a hack or if you just want to keep yourself from being hacked, I'd love to give you some advice on it, although we
Mhm.
probably gave most of it
Yeah,
right here.
here.
But yeah, thanks for listening. Remember, we are one of a handful of podcasts on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network. You can find all of them at automotiverepairpodcastnetwork.com. And we have a great new app for listening to the podcasts that you can also get at automotiverepairpodcastnetwork.com, or you can just go into the App Store and search for, again, Automotive Repair Podcast Network, getting that repetition marketing going. Thank you again to our sponsors, and glad that you listened. Hope that you'll listen in again next week. Until then, go fill those bays.